Mike, I hope you're having a great day. Welcome into the game in Tuscaloosa.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it.
All right, Mike, let's go back to Baton Rouge. Saturday, your evaluation, a big win for the Tigers against the Gators.
Yeah, offensively, man, they made it work. And their offensive line play was really good. Florida came into this game. They sacked the quarterback 26 times with 51 tackles for losses. They got 0 sacks against LSU. It goes hidden in the accomplishments of Joe and of the receiving core and Clyde. Edwards-Helaire ran for over 100 yards in the first half. But LSU's offensive line really was the story of that game. They will protect Joe in the pocket. They gave him enough time to make the throws, and they had a running game. So that was impressive. Again, Burrow has a great day. And the receivers, Justin Jefferson and Jamar and Thaddeus Moss, they all did a great job getting open, and they had a running game. So offensively, it was again another impressive performance. And Ryan, just think about it this way: LSU had 48 offensive plays and scored 42 points.
Huh, wow!
And Cade York missed a field goal, would have been 45 points and 48. But again, goes to show how different all this looks offensively for LSU. I mean, I know in my lifetime I've never seen anything like it, so it was impressive. Defensively, it just couldn't get off the field on third down. Listen, I take nothing away from Kyle Trask. I thought he did a really good job throwing the football. I thought Mullen's game plan was really good. He got a little cute at times, and I think that cost him. But they were giving football to the big tight end, Kyle Pitts, and he made some big plays, Van Jefferson. I think what really bothers Coach O is the fact that, you're stopping them on first and second down, and it's not 3rd and 3 or 3rd and 4. It's 3rd and 14, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 17, and they were converting. Believe me, the veins was poking out of his neck about that more than anything. But again, it was a lackluster performance from a tackling standpoint. They didn't tackle well in space, and they could not get a pass rush on Trask in the first half. And they started sending extra people in the second half and were able to do so. But it was a huge win for LSU. And right after I finished doing the show with you last week, I talked to Coach O. He's like, "Hey, what's going on? Well, what are you?" Oh, I said, "Man, listen, I'm busy during the day sometime, Coach." He said, "Yeah, me too." And so we had a conversation about a player from Florida, and he said, "I heard you picked 30-17 we'd win." I said, "Yeah, I thought it'd be 30-17." He said, "We're going to need 40 points to win this game."
And they did. Obviously.
Now, they could have won it with 30.
Right.
Boy, they've been razor close in that. So, he was right on the call with that. I think he sort of had a feeling his defense would struggle against Florida's offense. And, listen, he has struggled against Mullen. Bottom line, Dan's had his number. 2 years ago when he was at State, they beat LSU 37-7. And then last year they beat them, in Gainesville. So I think he had a gut feeling this would be a high-scoring game. And when he told me, "Hey, listen, it's going to take 40 to get us there," I was like, "Well, you got the right guy to do it." He started to laugh. He said, "Yeah, I sure do." He said, "But we got to protect them. We got and he was absolutely right about it. So it was a great atmosphere in Tiger Stadium. Man, that crowd was raucous, and I love the 7:00 situation, and so many top recruits there. I mean, you on the sidelines, and it was like a who's who, of recruits that were walking the sidelines for that LSU Florida game. So great atmosphere for LSU, and now, you move on, turn the page. That's one thing Coach has been able to do pretty well here at LSU. Les struggled with that toward the end of his career, especially after he would get beat by Alabama. They would lose to Arkansas and Ole Miss. And he could not turn the page. And the one thing with Orgeron, 24-hour rule, and maybe a little bit more than that. But he's always on to the next team, the next atmosphere, the next game you got to play. And so, but this is all building up, Ryan. I mean, we did the show last night. First two callers. What about LSU, Alabama?
Sure.
I think is, hey, listen, we got a little bit of running room between now and when LSU plays Alabama. We'll have a lot of time to talk about that, but that is certainly the big subject here. What's going to happen, because you can see both teams with explosive offenses. Joe Burrow has certainly turned this franchise around, and I ain't afraid to say it because I've said it so many times. I think Tua is the best quarterback in the SEC since Peyton Manning. You got a tremendous wide receivers there. LSU's got a really good set of receivers. It's going to be which defense can evolve over the next few weeks, because both of them have shown some holes that you wonder a bit if it's not all about personnel. There's some scheme work here that seems really odd on both sides.
So Mike, when you look at Joe Burrow and Tua Tagovailoa, because if you begin to look at this Heisman Trophy, and I found it on ESPN where they said that Joe Burrow has sort of taken the lead. They do a survey of about 10 Heisman voters. They kind of do a survey exactly. I mean, don't you think that the game here in Tuscaloosa would aside the Heisman winner if these guys continue on the path that they're on? That whichever guy has the best performance is probably who's going to win the Southern vote.
I agree, and the same geniuses that put Leonard Fournette at the top of the list, and as soon as that game was over with, Derrick Henry had it, didn't he? A few years back.
He did, yeah.
So my thing about it is, I get it, and it's nice because you're looking for a story.
Sure.
This time of year. I don't think Joe Burrow's the Heisman favorite right now. In my opinion, he's not. I think Tua is. And I think, Joe and Jalen are in that 2 spot. But, man, that Alabama game's going to mean a ton. And I remember Fournette was a distinct leader going into that Alabama game. And then all of a sudden, every time Leonard touched the ball, I could have took a team picture of the Alabama defense. Every time he touched it, I mean, it looked like there was 9 guys around him. And Derrick Henry made that statement. And then he did the week afterwards. The week after, I mean, he was a hoss down the stretch, and he ended up winning it. So the early Heisman stuff and all this and that, I have a guy that I actually grew up with from Thibodeau, Louisiana, not far from where I live, and he is the chief odds maker, sports-wise, for the win in Las Vegas. And I asked him, how many people bet on Joe Burrow to win the Heisman in June and July? And he said, give me a few minutes and I can find out for you. 6.
Wow.
And most of them were small bets, but they had one $200 bet on Joe Burrow at 150 to 1.
Oh, yeah.
So, man, that's pretty, listen, if you can cash in, God bless you on that. But, man, that game is going to mean so much for so many ramifications across the board and what happens. But haven't we walked down this aisle before so many times? Last year, wasn't it 1-3? LSU was 3 in the country at that time. And LSU had them at home. And I told you this during the game. Pre-game, Alabama looked like this was all business for them. Hey, we've been there, done this. We're just taking care of business here. LSU was all hyped up, jumping all around. They were really emotional early in that game, or before the game. And once they got hit a few times, they got brought back down to earth real quickly. So it's going to be interesting how the take is, only because I think LSU's in much better shape this year to put points on the board. The negative is I'm not sure they can stop Alabama.
Mike, I want to go back because I know you and we've exchanged a couple of text messages. If LSU, because LSU's got a harder road to get to undefeated than I think Alabama does. Alabama's got Arkansas and Tennessee. I think those are very winnable games for Alabama. LSU's got to be a top 15 team in Auburn, and they got to beat Mississippi State on the road, which I think they're going to do that. But as you look at the resume, I text you this after LSU beat Florida. I think LSU, if you look at that committee and you look at the resume, only based on the resume, LSU's got a more impressive resume. I wouldn't have a problem with that selection committee putting LSU at number 1 team in the country.
Yeah, and I sort of disagreed with you, but whatever. However it's going to work out.
But I mean, who has a better resume than LSU right now?
Yeah, I get it. I get it. But there is something about walking down that football aisle before. You know, because LSU's been a contender, but, you know, all of a sudden they've become a pretender to it. You know, Alabama's done it before. Clemson's done it before. Ohio State has walked down that aisle before. When's the last time LSU's done it? 2011?
Yeah.
So, man, listen, that's moons ago, so to speak. And so it'll be interesting to see how the voters look at that. And I don't disagree with you. The resume looks great. But I think there's always going to be some people that say, oh, man, what have they done in this setting before? And, you know, it's been a long time since they've been in that spot. So it's been great conversation, put it to you that way. And it keeps us busy on sports talk. But I can see where you're coming from. But I think for some voters, they're not going to go that route. You know, they're going to say, you know, LSU's almost got to prove it. Prove it to me again. Prove that you can beat Alabama. And then we'll put you in that top spot. But until you do so, we're not giving it to you. I think for some guys or whoever's voting, ladies, whatever, I think they're not going to do that. That's just bottom line. And they would have a point. And I would understand that point 100%. That you can talk it, but you better do it on the field.
Mike, with your eyes, the way that you evaluate football, give me 4 teams right now. And I know this is the midpoint of the season. These teams are 6-0, and you got a lot of still undefeated teams. Who is the best 4 teams, in your opinion, in college football right now?
I think Alabama, Ohio State, LSU, Oklahoma.
Ooh, now see, Mike, it's so funny that you said this because we were talking about it earlier. Based on what Clemson's done, you know, if all these teams kind of continue doing what they're doing, you know, you could. I mean, how crazy is that?
Somebody's going to slip on the banana peel.
Sure.
Okay?
Yeah, sure.
At this time a week ago, did anybody predict South Carolina would beat Georgia?
Nobody. Yeah.
No. And so, listen, that's why you play the game. And so somebody's going to slip along the way. Defensively, of all those teams, Ohio State looks the best of the bunch. I think we can agree on that. Man, they've done a really good job. Man, they got a pass rush. And they got one cat that scares the bejesus out of you, and that's Chase Young. And they got a young freshman that I've talked to a couple of their coaches that tell me, man, you know, he may be the next big thing coming up. And their secondary is really good, and they squeeze you defensively. The other 3 teams, you know, and Ohio State's explosive certainly on offense too with Justin Fields. But you look at the quarterback situation: Tua, Joe Burrow at LSU, Jalen, and Justin, and Lawrence hasn't played at that same level that we saw late last year. And I wondered a little bit that before the season of how well he would handle that. Because you know what? I got a little bit of a book on him now. I've seen him. I know how, you know, what he's going to do and what he's not going to do. And then don't give me that stuff about what he did against Florida State. Come on, Florida State. Ryan, is that as shocking a development as you could see in the South as what's happened to that program?
Sure.
That has been a top recruited school and how everything has just unraveled at Florida State. So the schedule would certainly favor Clemson and who they got to play in comparison to what, say, Alabama or LSU's got to get to the big show. OU's faced their toughest opponent. I thought Texas would keep that game close, and they did. Ellinger is a really good player. They ravaged in the secondary, but still in all, in Ohio State, you think Michigan can beat them? Ain't no way. I mean, so it's going to be, but someone will hit the tripwire along the way. And certainly LSU, Alabama will play itself out. But one of those other teams will hit the tripwire too. They're not going to all come out of there clean. They're going to have a game like Georgia had against South Carolina and get beat by a team you didn't expect they would get beat by.
Mike, this is going to set up, and I've said this on multiple different radio interviews that I do across the SEC region. This is going to set up for maybe one of the best 45 days in college football that we've had in a long time, because it's still, that little TV thing that you see, to be determined. That's where college football is right now. Yeah. To be determined. It's going to be set up for a lot of epic finish right here in college football.
I agree with you. And, I go back in the summer. I had an opportunity, we sitting down on a Friday because we had to do 4 hours of radio at the Manning camp, and Peyton Manning walks over and he's taking a breather. We had a big tent where he could kind of cool off. He grabbed himself, a cool drink and everything else, and he asked me to say, "Who you think this year, college football?" And I told him, I said, "You know what, Alabama, Ohio State." He looked at me, he said, "Man, that was fast. You come up with that." I said, "Yeah." But I said, "You know what, the other thing," and I said, "You got to take credit for this, because it was your idea to come up with this camp. It wasn't Archie's. It was Peyton's." I said, "We may be in for, if not the best, one of the best years for quarterbacks that we've ever seen in college football." And he said, "That's part of my dream, that this camp would help evolve some of that." And he said, "That was long ago." He said, "Man, Mikey, that was long ago we came up with this." But I think that's what's happening. You look at the top teams and the quarterback play that they have, and how 7-on-7 has changed the world, and the receivers that you can get out today, and how quickly they can assimilate into a system. It is setting that up. And while we see the offense is really looking great, it's like putting something in a drink cup. You can only put so much whiskey in the shot glass before it spills. Something got to give. The defenses are giving. You just see it. So all the offenses are looking really good, and defensively you're seeing the step back that you knew eventually would happen in college football, just because of the emphasis on the pitch and catch game in the high school ranks, 7-on-7, all these camps that have these quarterbacks so developed at such a young age, and have the receivers almost ready to go, so to speak, by midway into their freshman year, that they're ready to roll. Hey, tag me in. I'm ready to go. And but something also has to be negative. When you get the good, you also going to get the bad. And you see team secondary. And I got this was a conversation I had with Ogeron about 2 weeks ago. Yeah, it was right before the Utah State game. And he was like, "Mike, you know what the thing today is all about? You got to get turnovers, and you got to get off the field on third down." He said, to me, because him and I have always had a bit of an argument about giveaway, takeaway, and I still think that is as high, that's the high point. But I think what's a close 1B, defense is getting off the field on third down. Ryan, I think today, if you can't get off the field, you just getting wore out. Look at Florida against LSU. They ran 84 plays against LSU's defense. That's a long time, Hoss, to be on that field.
Sure it is. Well, but that's here in Tuscaloosa,
look how Alabama's lost.
Sure.
It's been in the 90s in games against Clemson. Man, that's a long time for defenses to be on the field. And so I think we see the evolution here. And it sort of spread around to so many different things. But I do think that the pitch and catch game of the world isn't going anywhere. It's only going to get better, and sort of breathe it in this year. And look at those top quarterbacks, and just about everywhere you can find guys that can wing it. And they've made the game for the middle of the road teams winnable. It's giving you hope that you can maybe win a game that you shouldn't be even in the close to. And we see it now in college football.
Well, hey, Mike, listen, we're sorry for this Alabama student making those threats against LSU. Don't hold us accountable for a stupid freshman that made those mistakes on Saturday night. I'm sure a lot of people, what are you talking about? The Tuscaloosa News broke this story late last night. An Alabama student accused of making threats against LSU's Tiger Stadium. When you do stupid stuff like this, you deserve to sit in jail. And I was seeing that it's a felony in that state. So don't hold us accountable for one of these idiot freshmen up here at University of Alabama. I know they did something stupid on Saturday night, but
and listen, I say stupid stuff every day because I do it at my house.
Well, yeah, but you don't make a phone call to a stadium full of a great college football game. So we're not all dumb like this kid that's sitting over here in the Tuscaloosa County Jail and probably will be transferred down to Louisiana.
Ryan, that's also part of the world we live in.
Yes, it is.
We live in that social media
But why
world.
would you do that? I mean, like, what?
That's not real smart.
Yeah,
but
in this
listen,
time.
you see it more and more. Just comments that's unbelievable, and sometimes it's not a teenager.
Sure, yeah.
Sometimes it's people our age, so to speak, making similar type comments. So it is what it is. It's just part of the world we live in, and you take it with a grain of salt. But listen, you pay the price when you do those sort of things.
Hey, what it should do is just put him there in Tiger Stadium and let him sit there for a little bit. Those fans will sort of find a way to correct that behavior. Something tells me so.
Yeah. Real quick on it, and I have a friend of mine who's going to veterinary school. One of their kids, and so I get a chance every once in a while, to be there, and they feed Mike, the tiger, and then man, you talk about a content tiger, dude, man, he lives the life of luxury. He's living in a multi-million-dollar facility, into that deal, but you wouldn't believe some of the stuff that happens, with Mike. People trying to kind of incite him a little bit. Now, no matter what, I know he's in an enclosed environment, but why do you want to get you're talking about a wild animal that's, and he's always about prey. He's always worried about eating, so to speak. Why do you want to do things like that? And they've had people that have actually tried to jump into that pit with Mike. Wow. And I'm talking about Louisiana people.
Oh, what an idiot. Yeah.
No, you jump in there and then Hoss, now you better hope that he ain't in a place that catch you. Because people do some crazy stuff in this world. But listen, some of them, they were inebriated or whatever. Listen, it would take a lot of firewater to get me to jump that fence with Mike in there. That's all I can tell you.
Hey, Mike Detillier, have an awesome week, and we'll see you very, very soon. Thank you again for being a part of the show.
All right. Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it.